Dumelani sanibonani ninjani molweni avuxeni thovelanda. Guys, today I'm Tembiso Munyai, journal article writer. And today is 21 July 2024. Today we'll be talking about the property law. We are starting with the property law. Work with me and learn with me so that you can able to pass this module. Please listen very carefully so that you can pass these modules. In order to understand property law, you must understand the difference. As I have said, in order to understand the property law, you must understand the difference between real right and personal right. Right? I can assure you, real right is a right of ownership. On the other side, personal right is a right of performance. Which means that this one totally depends on obligation. Real right is a right of ownership. Personal right is a right of performance, or which depends entirely on the obligation. What I mean to say, let me give example by landlord. By landlord and tenant. Let me give example by landlord and tenant. Example which will be nicer is UJ, which is University of Johannesburg. University of Johannesburg has a residential area, let me include area, as a residential area in Braamfontein. Students UJ will enter into an agreement with the students so that the students can occupy the residential area in Braamfontein. This agreement in a law, we call it a lease agreement. You must not forget that the lease agreement does not need to be in writing. However, it should be reduced to writings for formalities and better legal proceeding. This means that the right between the UJ and residential area is a real right. Why? Because UJ own the residential area in Braamfontein, and real right is the right of ownership. Number two, the right between UJ and the students, which rises out of the lease agreement, is a personal right. Why? Because personal right is the right to performance. Many people think that personal right is the right of ownership because it's a personal right. However, in a law, it's not like that. Another thing is if a student fails to pay rent, UJ has a Telzik hypothek. Telzik hypothek allows UJ to prevent student to remove goods. It also allows UJ to attach student goods and sell them to reimburse the rent money. From here, I can summarize again with you explaining so that you won't forget. You must know that there should be a difference between real right and personal right. And I said real right is a right of ownership, meaning that whenever a person has ownership against anything or over anything, if you have a right, if you bought a fridge, when the fridge is in your name, you have a real right over the fridge. So anything that you have a ownership of, you have a real right. And I said personal right is a right which gives rise out of performance, which is the obligation. When we talk about obligation, you must know that depends on the contract. Therefore, personal right is a rise out of a contract. And I gave example by the landlord versus the tenant. And I make a referral by UJ, University of Johannesburg. UJ has a residential area in Braamfontein, and I said it will enter into an agreement with the students, and that agreement will be called a lease agreement, which allows the students to occupy the residential area in Braamfontein. I said the lease agreement does not need to be in writing. However, it should be reduced in writing if, for formalities, the right between UJ and residential area. And I said because UJ has a ownership of residential area in Braamfontein, it is a real right. And I said the right between UJ and the students, because it's a rise out of the contract, which is an agreement or a contract or a lease contract, is a personal right. And I said that what does it mean? It means that the UJ, the student has a personal right against the residential area. And then the UJ has a real right over the residential area. So students are the one who have a personal right because it is a rise out of the contract. And I said, if students fail to pay a rent, UJ has a TESIC hypothec. A TESIC hypothec allows UJ to prevent students to remove goods, and it also allows attachment of a student's goods and sell them in order to reduce such money. So, in brief, the rules of the property are like this. When you get a question in the examination, you firstly check whether it's a real right or personal right. You check whether the question, the type of agreement on the question. You check whether the question, the type of the question violates, how they violate the above agreement which has been entered. Then you check the remedies which are available. If you have followed these 4 steps, you will pass property law. Let me repeat again. When you get a question in the examination, firstly, you check whether there's a real right or personal right on the question. Secondly, you check the type of agreement that arises on the scenario. You check the violation of the above agreement. Then you check the remedies that are available. You will be able to answer all the questions that are following such a scenario. If you want to be part of these classes, I'm giving a classes on the property law, and those classes will be from 22 July to 27 July 2024. If you want to be part of us, the joining fee is only 100 Rand. Then you come to learn the property law. And then if you want to join, you WhatsApp us on 0619842135. Thank you very much, guys, for watching the video.